As the time to flee abroad dawned, John intended to pave the way for their safety first, by traveling alone to set everything up for his wife and child in the foreign country. Anxiety clawed at John's mind. He had meticulously planned every detail, from false identities to safe houses, yet an ominous sense of doom gnawed at him. The small duffel bag at his feet contained everything he thought he'd need for his new life. Cash, passports, and a few precious keepsakes. He glanced at his watch constantly, every tick amplifying his nervous energy. John stepped into his car, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped the steering wheel. The route to the airport was well memorized, but his mind wandered, replaying every critical moment of the past few months. He drove through the city's bustling streets, feeling like a ghost among the living, unnoticed and forgotten. He tried to focus on the road, but his mind kept drifting back to Sarah and their newborn son. Would they ever forgive him for what he had done? Would he ever forgive himself? As the cityscape gave way to the quieter suburbs, a dense fog began to roll in, shrouding the streets in a ghostly veil. John switched on his headlights, the beams piercing the mist but doing little to ease his growing unease. It was then that his phone buzzed on the passenger seat, an urgent message from an unknown number. He hesitated, knowing he shouldn't stop, but the compulsion to look was too strong. He pulled over to the side of the road and read the text. "Come home." Urgent. Panic surged through him. Was it a trap? Had someone discovered his plans? He debated ignoring it, but something deeper, a gnawing guilt, a sense of responsibility, compelled him to turn the car around. The fog seemed to thicken as he drove back, the familiar streets now appearing foreign and menacing. As he neared his home, he saw the flashing red and blue lights cutting through the evening fog. His heart pounded, a drumbeat of dread. The police cars parked haphazardly outside his house were a grim beacon, drawing him into a nightmare he could never have imagined. John parked a distance away, his legs feeling like lead as he forced himself to walk towards the house. He ducked under the police tape, his breath shallow and quick. The front door was ajar, the warm light spilling out onto the cold, wet ground. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The sight that met him was beyond comprehension. Sarah lay lifeless, her body a tableau of unspeakable violence, her blood painting the once warm living room an icy shade of horror. The coppery scent of blood filled the air, mixing with the familiar smells of home, creating a sickeningly surreal atmosphere. Nearby, incongruously untouched by the carnage, sat his newborn son. His tiny hands were stained crimson, yet his expression was eerily calm, almost serene. The juxtaposition of his innocent face against the grisly scene around him was a grotesque mockery of normalcy. John's heart pounded in his chest as he took in the scene, each detail more horrifying than the last. A sinister giggle echoed from the shadows, too knowing, too mature to belong to an infant. He stumbled toward the basement, the source of the chilling sound, his every step heavy with dread. The basement door creaked open to reveal a macabre scene. The infant's spirit and his son, surrounded by shadows, playing amidst the chaos as if it were mere backdrop to their dark games. The air thickened as the baby turned to John, speaking with a voice that bore the timbre of his dead rival, Mike. "That woman, I disposed of her." The child's voice was cold, vengeful. "You unleashed me. Now behold my return. Your deeds wrought me, and now I come for you." Frozen with terror, John backed away, but the child advanced, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent joy. "Daddy, it's playtime," he said, his voice a twisted echo of innocence lost. The room seemed to close in, shadows dancing like specters at the edge of John's vision. Before John could react, the infant's mouth widened impossibly, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. The last thing John saw was his son, a monster born of his own sins, lunging forward. The sharp pain at his neck was swift, the life draining from him as his vision blurred, sinking into darkness. His final thought was a gruesome acknowledgement of his fate, entwined forever with the cursed spirit he had summoned. His legacy sealed in a legacy of blood and vengeance.